How's it going, everyone? We're right back into it with the SV650, and what you're going to see me do here is rotate the engine over by hand. This bike, as mentioned, had sat for a while after being stolen, so it was kept outside and was a little bit questionable. But what I wanted to do is rotate it over by hand in case there was any kind of corrosion in the cylinder walls, or anything was, acting like it was going to be stuck. I just popped open that access cover and put a wrench on the end of the crankshaft, and then from there I can just kind of put a little bit of force on it and just make sure everything's gonna act properly. This is something I like to do with any bike that I know has sat for a while, and it's just a good precaution to take. So you'll notice here I'm actually using a flashlight and staring down the intake as I rotate the engine. What I'm looking for is for any valves to be stuck. I've actually encountered that once or twice just from being corroded or just seized into the stem somehow. Obviously that would cause a problem if you go to start the bike, but I just want to make sure nothing was frozen up. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and, as you see, I just squirt some oil down the cylinder, and that helps just kind of pre-lubricate everything for that initial start. So get some oil circulated around, get it coated on the walls, and then it just makes everything a lot safer whenever you go to first fire it up. So rotating it over, it seems like it has compression on the front cylinder. As I pull the carburetors off, I can actually see down to the back of the intake valves. The fronts were open. This thing had sat for a year. There didn't look to be any corrosion on it or any corrosion on the intake valves themselves or junk. But on the intake valves of the rear cylinder, if you look down in here, you can see a lot of carbon buildup and whatnot. And so as I'm rotating it over, I can actually see the actuation of the valve, and I can see that it's not sealing on the far valve. It's a 2-valve or 4-valve, head. But I'm thinking that after running it for a bit, getting some RPM and some actual airflow through there, we might draw in a little bit of that carbon, and with some oil, it might actually clean the back of the valve with a good fuel. There's not really a whole lot I can do. I don't want to just force air through that, but I don't know, I think it should probably be fine. The engine, as you rotate it over, feels pretty good. It's pretty smooth. I can tell there might have been a little bit of corrosion on the cylinder wall the very first rotation, but that seems to be gone now. As you probably saw, I actually I just used my oil squirter. I put some oil down the intakes here, help lubricate the valves and the cylinder once it gets in there. Since this thing hasn't been ran in so long, I want to confirm that A, it wasn't locked up, but also there wasn't just a bunch of junk on the cylinder walls, or it wasn't making any weird noises right off the bat. But it seems smooth. It seems like it's building at least enough compression to run, and that should improve once we start it. See, it's already feeling more stout. So yeah, on to the next issue. because this bike was stolen in its past life. It needs a new ignition switch. So right now I'm going to show you how to remove the headlight and then access the ignition switch from underneath. Not that I'm promoting stealing these things or anything like that, but you know, you do need a special tool for this. So let's get started. We need to change the switch before we start this bike. First I'm going to pull the actual lens off, because the ignition switch is plugged in through the bucket, and that's where you access it. And right here, the screen plug. Slide that out of the way. What we'll do is we'll just set this back in place. Before we take off this other one, I'm going to take off these two 8mm here. And then we'll just drop the whole thing down. There, you can see our ignition switch is right here. I haven't actually held the tool up to it, but I know you need a tamper-proof Torx bit. So I'm going to start guessing the sizes here. Next size, smaller. We'll get there eventually. No.
longer than I thought. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I have put in the new ignition switch. I used red Loctite on the threads. Red Loctite was on them when I took them out, but I didn't show that just because it took me so damn long to get them out. So went ahead and threw those back in. While I had this area accessed, I went ahead and just wiped it down and cleaned it with some spray polish while I had the extra space. So now I'm going to just pull this lens back off. We'll put the light back on, feed the wiring back in, and we will be on our way. That gets it hanging up there for now.